To understand Gnosticism in order to understand what's happening. Gnosticism, like I said, teaches that humanity is enslaved by dark entities called archons, and it teaches that Jehovah, the God of the Bible, is the lead archon. He's the prime oppressor of humanity, the one behind everything. He tried to imprison us in the Garden of Eden and keep us in a mere animal-like, robotic state. And the serpent of Genesis, Satan, is the good guy who tried to help us and awaken us out of our slumber that Jehovah tried to keep us in. It is Satan, as Madame Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley taught, who gave us consciousness, who gave us spiritual freedom. Now, New Age mystery school type beliefs have been around since the beginning, but Gnosticism specifically, remember like I said in an earlier video, Gnosticism is a flavor of New Age ice cream. Gnosticism first emerged right after the early Christian church first got going. Now, that should sound a little suspicious to people. A belief system that completely flips the Bible upside down first came onto the scene almost immediately after Jesus came, ascended into heaven, and the New Testament was written. Right after that, a completely inverted version appears. Right after the New Testament was written, the Gnostic Gospels emerged. And in the Gnostic Gospels, it tries to paint Jesus as being some sort of, Buddhist type New Age guru. Okay, this is spiritual warfare. Now, New Agers will claim that the Gnostic Gospels are the true accounts, but of course that's what they'll say. They are committed to their satanic Gnostic worldview, so of course they're going to say that the Gnostic Gospels are the true ones. That shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody. But the vast majority of scholars date the canonical Gospels of the Bible, that is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They were written well before the Gnostic Gospels were, but it's not really up for debate among people who aren't deceived or delusional. The biblical Gospels and the entire rest of the New Testament was written before the Gnostic texts, and it's pretty obvious why that is. Because in the first century, and most scholars date the Gnostic text to the 2nd century AD at the earliest, that is the year 100 and after, and all the biblical New Testament texts were written somewhere between 50 and 90 AD. And this is when the original eyewitnesses to Christ and the original apostles, some of them at least, were still alive. If I'm not mistaken, the final eyewitness to die was the Apostle John, who wrote the book of John and Revelation, and some say he lived well after the year 100. And like I said, it's pretty obvious why the satanic Gnostic texts weren't written until after the year 100. Because before that time, the original eyewitnesses and original apostles to Jesus Christ were still alive and could discredit the Gnostic texts. The original eyewitnesses and apostles had authority. And Satan is smart. If he had started spreading Gnosticism too early when Peter and Paul and John were still alive, those texts would have easily been discredited. Peter would have said, that's not what Jesus said. I walked with him. He didn't say those things. He didn't say we're all gods. And Paul, who had a direct encounter with Christ on the road to Damascus, would have easily been able to tell what were and weren't authentic texts that accurately represented Jesus and what I'm convinced happened was, Satan simply said, okay, Jesus is long gone from the earth. All the eyewitnesses are dead. Let's start spreading the idea that I was the good guy in the garden and that God was the bad guy who created this material world as a prison for people. And let's start spreading this idea that the whole world is under the enslavement of these evil beings. And let's just say that it's God and his angels who are behind it all. It's really that simple, I think. And all Satan did was switch the roles. And then Satan no doubt said to his angels, let's actually start building up this evil prison planet. Let's build up the bloodlines, put them in power. Let's build up this matrix, build up this evil world government. And then when the time comes, we'll blame it all on God or Christianity or whatever. We'll blame it on God, on the Bible, on the biblical worldview, on Jews and Christians. And trust me, there's a growing number of New Age people who claim that it is a biblical worldview that is behind the evil prison planet.
That have all these government documents that we have acquired and the testimony of all these military and intelligence witnesses, because they describe clearly what is really going on behind the scenes and why the media is deceived and why the public is deceived on this issue. And one of the deceptions is to try to present this idea that there's some kind of hostile threat from outer space because they're trying to lay the foundation for future war in space. And this is what we have to resist. We have to resist this siren song of greed coming from the military-industrial complex and the sort of orthodox eschatologists, the people who would like to figure out how to precipitate an end of the world scenario, like these books Left Behind and all this sort of fundamentalism. Those are the guys running this program.
Yeah.
These classified programs are filled with really kooky people from the lunatic fringe of the religious extremists. And so people have to understand that this is the opposite of where our civilization is really headed, and these are the dying gasps of a dying world order.
So first, and probably most importantly, is Alex Jones's open allegiance to what are known as the mystery schools. Now, like I've alluded to earlier, the mystery schools are the ancient foundation for all occultism, including the New Age and Freemasonry. And the New Age authorities will tell you it's all connected with the Brotherhood of Ascended Masters, the spiritual hierarchy, which are clearly just Satan and his angels masquerading as spiritual ministers of light and goodness. Theosophist Grace Noach, she was head of the Theosophical Society at one point. She has a book called The Mystery Schools. She goes into great detail in that book about how the mystery schools were founded by the Ascended Masters, or what she calls the Sons of Mind. Another example is Kayla Ambrose, psychic and author of many New Age books. She explains what the mystery schools are in her book called 9 Life-Altering Lessons, Secrets of the Mystery Schools Unveiled. She says, "I'm not here to teach you anything. Rather, I'm here to help you remember what you already know at a soul level." By the way, they say that over and over again, that we already know it all, that we just have to remember, to recall, to remember who we are, etc. That's why they do hypnotic regression therapy, to try and remember supposedly past lives. She says, "I teach at the school of Stella Maris what are called esoteric teachings, which are also referred to as wisdom teachings, enlightenment teachings, and mystery school teachings." So this New Age authority is telling you flat out that her entire life philosophy comes from the mystery schools. She goes on to write, "These teachings have been shared orally from teacher to student through the ages of humanity. Some of the most recognized are the enlightenment teachings and mystery school teachings." So this New Age authority is telling you flat out that her entire life philosophy comes from the mystery schools. She goes on to write, "These teachings have been shared orally from teacher to student through the ages of humanity. Some of the most recognized are the teachings from ancient Egypt, Greece, and Celtic Europe, and others are from the ancient wisdom of Sumeria and India." And I think it's interesting to note that she doesn't mention Israel. She's telling you the mystery schools are the foundation of all pagan wisdom, and the wisdom taught to the Israelites, that is, from God, the one true God, is not honored by them. It's not honored as esoteric mystery school knowledge. Now, the Jews did pick up this stuff later on with the Kabbalah, but Israel is not considered one of the original homes of the mystery schools. She goes on, "These esoteric teachings are much older than this earth, and the wisdom they offer is of the most benefit when one discovers, or rather uncovers, what is unseen rather than seen. These teachings cannot be completely experienced or mastered by reading a book or taking a workshop. They are designed to serve as guides along your journey of self-exploration and path to enlightenment." And then she goes on throughout the book to tell you how to become initiated into these teachings. And like I said, this is where Freemasons get all their stuff, all their imagery: initiation, enlightenment, progression to higher levels, and then finally ascension to godhood. It all comes from the original pagan mystery schools. And she says some interesting things on there. The ultimate goal of studying in the mystery schools is the expansion of consciousness. And then she references the all-seeing eye of the sun god, who is ultimately Lucifer. She says, "When the higher consciousness is activated, the all-seeing eye of the universe becomes aware of our awakened presence and engages with us. During this awakening, a series of alchemical changes occur, opening the physical and auric body to receive an energetic transformation and informational download. An overflowing ocean of energy is now directed around the person, enhancing the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. This leads to a profound awakening for the student that is timeless and as relevant and life-altering today as it was in the sacred temples of Egypt and Greece, for in that moment of awareness and enlightenment, everything changes on every level."
It's any kind of possibility. I think that there's an infinite creative force that generates all consciousness and all matter, and we are all connected. And if you align yourself with this infinite creative force, then you can be positive and you can be beautiful. I don't think it's a personal God. I don't believe in any particular doctrine or dogma, only that humanity is connected.
The inseparability of New Age spirituality and conspiracy theory can be explained by their shared spiritual heritage, for they are not separate realms of thought, but merely different branches on the same mystery school tree. The idea that mankind is imprisoned on Earth by dark forces is one of the key concepts of the Mystery School teachings, and it's given special emphasis within an ancient form of occultism known as Gnosticism. The Gnostics taught that humanity was imprisoned in a fake, illusory reality created by a group of nefarious beings called archons, who purposely kept mankind disconnected from its true divine heritage in order to feed off its negative emotional energy, a concept that would be integrated into the plot of the Hollywood film The Matrix. All forms of life are divine manifestations of the Source, connected with God in like manner to drops of water in the ocean. And the Gnostics in particular had believed that for thousands of years, the archons, jealous of humanity's divine spark, had been suppressing the knowledge of our true spiritual potential, lest we rise above them and defeat them. Ancient Gnosticism, therefore, was the original conspiracy theory. And interestingly, this ancient conspiracy theory claimed that the one behind it all, the evil god of this world conspiring against mankind, was not the biblical Satan, but the biblical God, Jehovah or Yahweh, the vengeful God of the Old Testament who created the Garden of Eden, led the Israelites out of Egypt, and established the nation of Israel. Consequently, the Gnostics have historically viewed the serpent or Lucifer not as the devil responsible for mankind's fall, but the Savior responsible for mankind's salvation, as it was he who offered the gift of enlightenment to Adam and Eve, thereby awakening their inner divine light, which the evil and jealous Jehovah or Yahweh wanted to suppress. Therefore, if the New World Order is actually a massive false flag operation, as I have suggested, Gnosticism provides the spiritual basis for blaming it on the God of the Bible. And as today's conspiracy narrative demonstrates, this seems to be exactly what's happening.
We don't intend at time to accomplish certain goals for those in power. That plan came to be known as the Illuminati plan. Here we have a book called The Teachings of Freemasonry. And we'll find that on the Book of Teachings are David, because in fact Freemasonry is Jewish. The Pope's headdress, the papal headdress, goes back to an ancient Jewish headdress. And of course the Pope wears the yarmulke, and so does the cardinals, wear the Masonic Research book, a volume on Freemasonry and the garb of Freemasons. And here we had one Freemason with the Jewish breastplate and the papal headdress. Even the Liberty Bell, the symbol of liberty, an equal Liberty Bell, identical with the same crack, is found in Moscow. It's a very famous Liberty Bell of Moscow with the same crack. It becomes known as a symbol, the symbol of the Brotherhood of the Bell. Bel being B-E-L, the ancient god in the Mesopotamian Valley, being the one that we call Beelzebub or Belteshazzar or Yahweh. Jehovah's kingdom on earth is nothing more than a Masonic kingdom.
Like the Gnostics of old, today's leading conspiracy theorists, many of whom openly admit their Gnostic allegiance, claim that the archons, led by the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, have been mentally and spiritually enslaving humanity for centuries, if not millennia, by keeping it imprisoned in a fake, simulated version of reality, just like the one portrayed in the film The Matrix. Conspiracy theorists insist that the archons and their human minions, the Illuminati, have been suppressing secret knowledge. This secret knowledge, supposedly kept hidden from us by the global elite, just so happens to be the very same knowledge that the serpent deceived Eve into believing that God was keeping from her. While conspiracy theorists often condemn the so-called occult agenda of the Illuminati, conspiracy theorists themselves are fulfilling the true occult agenda, one much greater and more deceptive than the New World Order. Like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the New Age conspiracy community is deceiving mankind into believing that a great secret has been kept from us, that we are God.
Humans are still prisoners. We're still trapped. So this whole battle that's been fought above the earth and on the earth and under the earth and energetically through the minds of people, literally to break enslavement. Because humans are enslaved. But the system has been going so long and is so clever that the vast majority of people don't understand what they are and how they're being trapped and how they're being tricked and how they're being lied to.
People really don't know what kind of a being they are. And because of that, which is in many cases kept purposely away from them, they're manipulated. Your birthright's being stolen away from you, just like the story of Jacob and Esau. It's being stolen away from people. And the problem is it's being stolen away primarily to tell them things that they are not. We are actually if you want to call it the incarnation of the I Am that said, let there be light in the universe, as human beings in this world. And there's other beings of other types that are across the cosmos that are incarnations of the same I Am.
This is the great secret. And the great evil of the New World Order engineers is that they fully understand this primal rule. And they have made the greedy, selfish decision to keep these great truths from humanity that would fulfill and empower our species.
The greatest clue to this agenda can be found in Alice Bailey's book, A Treatise on White Magic, a comprehensive guide to the 15 rules of white magic and the tasks which all New Age disciples must perform in order to be considered true white magicians. According to Bailey, the most important task of all was assisting in the release of what she called the prisoners of the planet, who were being held captive by the black magicians. And given her diatribe against an international group of businessmen, bankers, and corporations working in unison behind the scenes, it's quite clear that Bailey's black magician prison wardens are one and the same with the Illuminati of today's conspiracy theory narrative, and that the New World Order is the prison from which humanity must be released by the white magicians, the human counterparts of the Ascended Masters or Great White Brotherhood. The release of Earth's prisoners is an integral part of the great divine plan, which Bailey claimed was ultimately being overseen by the leader of the Ascended Masters, Sanat Kumara, who Bailey referred to as the Lord of the World, which is the same title given to Satan in the Bible, who is also described as a great deceiver who masquerades as an angel of light. The fulfillment of the divine plan through the release of Earth's prisoners is precisely the purpose which Alex Jones, David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, David Wilcock, and the rest of the New Age conspiracy community is serving. As illumined white magicians, they are leading a Gnostic rebellion against the black magicians controlling the planet, telling us that in order to rise above the dark forces, we must collectively raise our consciousness. Bailey's words reveal the truly occult nature of conspiracy theory and suggest that this growing New Age rebellion against the New World Order is, in reality, an occult civil war between white and black magic. And by exposing the black magic elites and spreading the lie that man is God, the white magicians are carrying out Bailey's instructions, affecting the release of the planet's prisoners from the Matrix, and paving the way for humanity's spiritual ascension. In order to escape the Matrix, humanity must first believe it is living in a Matrix. This is the purpose of the Matrix disclosure, to convince mankind of 3 beliefs. First, that the New World Order or control matrix is real. Second, that our reality is an illusion or dream from which we must awaken, a view which is increasingly being embraced by mainstream scientists, philosophers, and technological innovators. And thirdly, that each of us is an eternal being, an individual expression of the universal God consciousness. Once mankind accepts these 3 beliefs, it will awaken from the dream world or the great illusion, destroy the Matrix, overthrow its architects, and usher in a false golden age on the earth, fulfilling Paul's words, "For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape." This peace and safety will be predicated on the false belief that evil and darkness have finally been defeated, and that the great secret of man's true godlike potential has finally been revealed. The stage will then be set for the arrival of the biblical Antichrist, who will present himself not as a political leader thirsty for power, but as a spiritual teacher eager to serve mankind and lead it into a more peaceful, democratic, and enlightened future, free from all the evil, corruption, and darkness of the old world. He will not be the tyrannical head of the New World Order, but mankind's savior from it, like Neo in The Matrix or Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars trilogy, a concept which perfectly coincides with the Gnostic belief in the serpent being man's liberator from the Garden of Eden, the original Matrix.
There seems to be a divine mandate in heaven that in all periods of darkness, when there seems to be darkness encroaching on the human family, that the spirit of the universe calls out individual people and your spirit is moved to do something to help your fellow man, to be a teacher. And so there have always been teachers who have been called in the last and final parts of a dark time on the earth, where the universe puts it into certain people's hearts to be like an avatar, to be like a teacher.
History to end final stages. Satan has spent centuries creating the problem, the New World Order, and it's now time to expose it, force a reaction, offer the solution, and falsely blame it all on the God of the Bible, who, through religions like Christianity, has sought to control mankind by indoctrinating it with a depraved, sinful view of itself. As a result of this propaganda, true believers in Christ will be seen as being part of the dark globalist agenda. For believing that they are saved by the blood of Christ, believers are increasingly being perceived as satanic, brainwashed by the same religion of blood sacrifice practiced by the Illuminati. This narrative will provide the perfect justification for the persecution of Christians, which the Bible tells us will reach its peak in the last days. Through the Matrix disclosure, Satan is reenacting his initial encounter with Eve on a massive worldwide scale, deceiving all of mankind into thinking that a great secret has been kept from us, and that we must eat the apple or take the red pill in order to realize the truth, that we are all God, and that Yahweh or Jehovah is the real devil or Satan, mankind's true adversary, who, ever since the Garden of Eden, has been trying to keep us enslaved in a false reality in order to keep us from realizing who we truly are.
Now I'm going to get into the great tree of knowledge and the wisdom that has been denied us by someone who does not want us to have this knowledge. About 3,600 years ago, the earth was invaded by something called the Archons. And what these Archons are is they do not possess the divine essence that we possess. And they're really jealous of us for that. And so they're creating a world, this is what the Nag Hammadi says, a simulated world all around us. It's all simulated. And the point of the Archons, according to Nag Hammadi, is to make you think that their reality is the reality, not the real reality.
Let's look at what the Gnostic writings from 2,000 years ago say about these Archons, that they are able to create something that they call HAL, H-A-L, which translates as, wait for it, virtual realities.
There is an energy on this planet called the Archons, it's called the Black Goo, whatever you want to call it.
Once you understand what is going on here, you can free yourself of the Archons. And I believe the Archons are here. And I believe they're everywhere. And I think they are a virus. I think they get inside of us. And they make us think that the fake world is real. That's the Archons. They don't want us to find out what's going on. The Gnostics believed that there was a false god. And this false god was trying to convince us that we were nothing.
They talk about the demiurge being a fake god that created the physical material reality that we perceive, and they relate this to the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God. They also relate it, in effect, to what people call Satan.
As human beings represent the highest vibration of potential vibration of universal consciousness.
God is experiencing consciousness through all of us, and we are it. We are God.
We are all powerful. We are consciousness. We are awareness. We are a point of attention within the great infinite forever. And that's what the conspiracy wants us to forget, that we are the ocean. They want us to think we're just the droplet, the little me. That's why the only way this world is going to change, this reality is going to change, is when there is a consciousness shift, an expansion of consciousness beyond time and space, beyond the bounds of time and space. And there is the gateway to that this system wants to shut. And thus they have enslaved infinite. Is a gigantic what we have been subjected to, not just these generations, but for generations untold, is a gigantic hoax. A hoax that has sold us a fake reality, a fake version of how we should live our lives, and thus they have enslaved infinite awareness in a perception of little me. The fascist global state is not coming because we're not freaking having it anymore. And we are not any longer going to be manipulated into manifesting our own enslavement.
This is the animating contest of liberty. This fight is meant to grow your muscles culturally, spiritually, intellectually, to be even stronger, to be able to deal with the incredible developments that humans are about to have. This is the ascension of humanity that's happening right now, and the globalists are trying to suppress it.
The way out of this is through our co-creative conscious abilities and waking up.
As we wake people up, they then manifest what's always been there.
We need to see through this mirage, see through the illusion. Wake up.